Hi everyone. I wanted to talk about this tweet that I sent out yesterday. It talks about the requirement for US hospitals now to publish all of their prices for the services that they offer. It was part of the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare law, but it's only really just been put into force at the beginning of January of this year. And I normally build something like this myself, but it doesn't quite fit in with what I want to do this year with Indie SaaS and all that kind of stuff. But after I sent the tweet out, I realized that it's kind of a hard one to build, especially if you try and build it for the entire country right from the beginning. Also, things are still getting a little bit ironed out in terms of what they require, how people are publishing, and exactly what the requirements are. As some people have pointed out, I think you'll see in the responses here. Somebody had pointed out that it's kind of meaningless information. I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, any number has meaning now, whether it's 100% accurate and applies to everybody and all that kind of stuff is obviously important. But I think whatever mechanism that you put in to build a website like this now would still be useful once those numbers become more standardized and more understandable. And I think building something that aggregates them now will put you in it would give you a head start for when those numbers actually become a lot more helpful than they are now. So yeah, I was thinking about how I would implement this as an MVP myself, and the more I thought about it, I think what I would do is kind of start smaller than trying to ingest all of these prices from all these hospitals all over the country, and so I think the first thing I would do if I was tackling this is just to get a better understanding of how big of a problem how big of a task this is, and that's directly tied to how many hospitals there are. So I guess the first thing I would see is if there was some list somewhere in the United States. I'm going to guess that there's like let's say there's an average of 20 per state. So you're probably looking at something like 1,000 hospitals in the country, maybe. I don't know. Let's see. I just want to get a sense of how many there is. It's funny that there isn't like an aggregated count, but look, there's like 35 in Alabama. There's only 6 in Alaska, 11 in Arizona, probably a lot more in California, 89. Children's isn't really a state. Colorado has 19. Connecticut has 19. Delaware only has 3. Florida has 44. So, maybe the number's closer to average-wise is probably closer to 25 or 30. Obviously the bigger states have a lot more. Like Illinois got 91. Indiana's got about 20. So yeah, I'd say somewhere in the 25, maybe even up to 30 range. But that still gives you about 1,500 hospitals that you would have to ingest all this information on. Wyoming's only got 14. Wisconsin's got 35. West Virginia's got 7. Virginia, I expect, would have a little bit more. So yeah, so I think that gives you a sense of how big a task this is. And so to kind of avoid that, what I would do is focus on those areas that actually give you a choice, right? The whole point about having this information is that you can use it to compare some hospitals that are near you, so that when you say, well, I need this procedure done, should I go to this hospital, should I go to that hospital, which, what's the price, what's the, you'd use that as one factor, and also, what's the success rate of kind of each of the hospitals too. So obviously places like California, where you've got 89 hospitals across the state, places like New York, I'm going to assume, has a fairly high number, 35. New Jersey probably is 20. So yeah, so choose some of those bigger. Illinois has 91 now. That's more than I was expecting. Massachusetts probably has about 25. So yeah, so I'd pick a city that's close to you, or a state that you live in that has a higher number of hospitals. And you'll find that with a lot of these ones that there's probably a management company that runs a few of these hospitals. Some of them might be state run, some of them might not be. Some of them might be educational institutions, some might not be, but there might be a kind of a centralized place that actually manages the accounting and billing for these hospitals. And so it's more likely that they'll have a standardized way of sharing that information out. And then once you've got that, you can start to write some code that will allow you to ingest that information. Now, some places have published Excel files or Excel spreadsheets. Some places have just put out PDF files that have it. All stuff that should be able to be imported via some kind of script. And then once you've got that, I think once you've got it working for one state, adding a second and third state will probably be pretty straightforward once you've kind of figured out what is the formats that you're expecting. And then I think you could kind of start to kind of expand out of this. Yeah, I also think it would be a little bit easier to get press attention for something like this if you focused it. Let's say you focus it around New York City or in San Francisco. It might be much easier to reach out to the local news stations and say, hey, look, this is what we built for this particular area. Would you like to find out more? And I think they'd be interested if it was specifically for that particular area versus if you just built something that worked across the country. I think they'd still be interested, but it'd be less interesting. So that would be a pretty good way to start. And then once you've got that up and running and you've got some attention, you might get some help in terms of other people finding where those prices are, because it's been kind of hard to find. Some of these hospitals are adding the links, but they're kind of not sharing very easily where that link is. And so once you've got a presence out there, it might be easier to find those out as well. The other thing that you might want to consider when you build something like this is writing some kind of converter. So rather than trying to import directly from whatever the hospitals are publishing into a database, what you might want to do is have one system that imports, like a JSON file or an Excel file, and actually and creates the records in the database for you. And so what you can do then is each time you find something, some hospital has some new funky format for publishing their prices, you can write something that takes whatever format they have and converts it into this standardized form. And then once you've got that running, then you're not really worried about individual hospitals. Where all that you have to do for each individual hospital that has a new format is write the converter that will turn that price list into something that you can ingest into the website. And then your website, you don't really have to change the website itself each time you add a new hospital. And even if a hospital changes its format, then all you got to do is update your converter for that one hospital rather than messing with the actual code on the website itself. So that's kind of how I would handle it. I would start in New York, since that's where I live. If you live somewhere else that has a lot of hospitals, that's probably where I would start. Hope I see this out there soon. If you do build it, would love to see it. And if I can give you any more help or advice, happy to do that too.